Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Pod. Well, it's been a busy week. It's had everything. We've had a loss, we've had a win, we've had injuries, we've had speculations about outgoings. We've not had too much speculation about incomings, which we hope to talk about tonight. But it's been a busy week, so we're going to talk about it now. Joined by some familiar faces, familiar voices, as we are with Callum and Vic, but we've also got Rob from Fan Hub on tonight as well. Special guest appearance, so looking forward to getting some opinions from you, Rob. But Callum, first of all, how are we doing, mate? You've got that shirt on again. Suits you.
Yeah, well, I thought after his, in a position where he normally goes and his well-improved performance, I thought I'd rep the Guatemala shirt again. So let's just hope he keeps the form going, because otherwise it's going in the bin.
You can't put something as nice as that in the bin, mate.
I know, that's what I mean. It's too nice to go in the bin, actually. I might just put it in the wardrobe then and keep it in there.
There you go. Vic, how you doing, mate?
I'm all good, Jamie. Buzzing. We got the 3 points. Let's get cracking.
Yep, definitely. Start that hype train again. That's what we need, Vic. And Rob, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. It's great to be on again. It's been a while since I've been on. I've decorated my room appropriately behind for the event.
Yeah. Well, on the subject of shirts, that's an absolute banger as well. For audio listeners, what year is that? Tell me the year. I can't even tell you.
It's 96-97 is the promotion season with Jim Smith, and then the first season of the Prem.
It looks pristine as well.
Oh yeah, it's pride and joy. Pride and joy.
Love it. Well, we'll get into it. Let's talk about Oxford first. Obviously, we'll skirt over this because it was probably the worst game that I've seen in a while, and I feel like I say that quite a lot, but I think this one wins top prize, definitely. Cal, coming to you first, I guess just give me an overview. What's your thoughts about the Oxford game midweek?
I thought it was just the term frustration was just that in abundance. I mean, from start to finish, I don't think we were really, out there and competing with Oxford. I thought Oxford really controlled the game really well. And I think that they kind of lived up to Warne's prediction for them. They beat Barnsley at the weekend, so they're obviously no mug in terms of within the league. But I don't think we helped. I don't think we were there at the races at all. Second best to balls. And it probably just wasn't our day at the office, and it probably summed it up with 3 big injuries as well as the results. So it was just not our night at all.
Yeah, I mean, coming away and not getting anything from the game, and then obviously we've since found out about the injuries. And I think looking at Bird's injury, I thought potentially that was going to be a couple of weeks, but the other ones I didn't really know. But it's quite worrying that we're a depleted squad anyway, Vic, and then we've got these injuries that we're going to have to deal with for a couple of months.
Yeah, and it looks like we've gone from maybe signing 2 or 3 players to now looking at maybe 3, potentially 4, just to cover those. Because we know Bird's out for 8 to 10 weeks, Ward's out for 8 weeks. But then if you think about the match fitness, add another couple of weeks on that, you're looking at Christmas time, which is normally where we hit our form. So it's going to be a struggle, but we've got to have faith in Warne to bring in the right characters and the right players to sort of cover what we've already lost.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the frustration that he's had and not being able to bring people through the door, this then gets even worse because he's having to replace key players. They're players that we definitely need. And we know how pivotal Max Bird can be. I mean, on the flip side of that, Rob, does that potentially put his outgoing out of the door? You don't sign an injured player, do you?
I wouldn't have said so. The only thing with that is because it's Rossini that's coming in for him. Maybe he's going to look beyond that as in a bit of an investment, maybe. But I agree. The injury hopefully keeps him with us. But the squad depletions is a massive concern, more because I just think at this moment in time, Warne's not quite settled in terms of what he doesn't feel comfortable with what he's putting out on the pitch. So to then be depleted again and have to do rebuild, both with the players he's got now and then trying to bring people into that team as well, it just is a bit of a concern of how we're going to find some momentum moving forward, because it doesn't just, when I'm watching the games, desperately trying to be positive about what I'm seeing, but it just doesn't feel like he's found a system that's working with the players that we've got to get consistency. So yeah, missing players again, such as Max Bird and Joe Ward, to be fair, who started well, I think is definitely a concern.
Definitely. No, I definitely agree, Rob. Callum, looking at the Oxford game and looking at how we'd lined up, you've got another 90 minutes to have a little look at that formation, the personnel playing in those positions. Are you still of the same mindset of why it's not working? Did you learn anything from the Oxford game?
Yeah, I think I put it into the chat with you guys. I mean, the system, it's a system that obviously has been played by many managers, and Paul Warne, that's obviously proved successful for his time at Rotherham and across other clubs across the divisions and stuff. It's not a system that's just flawed, otherwise no one would use it at all. So it's just the personnel have got to be right to use it. Do I think we have the right personnel at this moment in time? No, because I think that it really found out the centre midfielders. I think Corey Smith was absolutely lost. I thought Horahan was legged and Bird struggled to just get into the game, bless him. So it really requires that kind of midfielder for me that can win the ball back, box to box, really physical, really fit, and not 2 out of the 3 being 30 plus and haven't got that ability in terms of fitness and stuff. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've found from it. And if you come up against a decent side, then you're going to get found out in terms of in the pockets because they just outplayed us, especially for the second goal. The first goal was a bit, obviously, we won't really talk about it, but the second goal, I thought it was a really well-worked goal and they've thoroughly deserved the 3 points.
Yeah, they did. And, it's one thing losing. You don't mind losing games if you get convincingly beat. I know we were pretty bad, but we have to give them credit, similar to how Wigan came and beat us. I think they deserved credit. And actually, I tweeted out yesterday that the results that happened over the weekend makes our home losses actually not that bad because they've taken points off of other, favourites. And we look at the league table and we're 3 points off the top. So I think we do need to have a little bit of perspective at the moment. Vic, centre-backs. We're obviously going to talk about centre-backs that came in, and obviously there's a change in formation, change in personnel. Why has it been such a slow start for Sonny Bradley and Curtis Nelson, in your opinion? For experienced players, should they be coming in and being able to hit the ground running? Hello, Vic. Are you there?
Oh, he's back. He's back.
He's back. I thought it was me. I thought it was me for a second. Now we can't hear you. I'll put the question to Rob, if that's okay, while you sort your mic out, Vic.
Yeah, that's good. I'm not sure, to be honest, Jamie. I mean, I think after the Oxford game, Warne kind of picked up on it and actually singled Bradley out. It's like, I think Dawes actually mentioned him, which is unusual, and Warne kind of went for it a little bit in the post match. So he's obviously seeing it as well. Again, it comes back to me for the manager. I think you've got to ask questions. He's obviously not just come in; he's had some time to work with him. So why are we getting to 2 and 3 games into the season when he's had the summer to build the formation and we're not really seeing the kind of fruits of that labour? So again, try not to be negative, but it is a concern that we've had the summer to rebuild. He's had the summer to put his team together, and he's not really happy with what he's putting out there. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions about the recruitment, about who's maybe took the lead with that. I'm just guessing because obviously he's not happy with what's out there, but at the same time, a lot of those players he has brought into the team. So there's no rhyme or reason why they're not picking up. Like you say, they're experienced players. They should be able to come and put on a show and be able to feel confident in that team. But something's just not right. Every single person watching the games is saying the same things, but it doesn't feel like there's one obvious answer. Even the people who understand the game, you can't find the answer at the moment. So hopefully it starts to click and we get a bit of consistency. But yeah, it's a bit of a myth at the moment, a bit of a mystery when you're watching kind of why things aren't working as well as they should.
Yeah, and it must be demoralising for Sonny Bradley. And he came into the club. He gave that interview of, "I'm not going to play League One forever. I want to get us back to the Championship. I'm a Championship player." And then his start has been very slow. So yeah, he looks short of confidence, which is so strange for a man over 6 foot with multiple neck tattoos, and just looks, like he wouldn't struggle in any situation, never mind on a football pitch. But we'll have to see what happens with that one. Let's get on to Saturday now. And Callum, you said about energy in midfield. You said about someone that can get box to box that's less than 30. Man of the match, Liam Thompson. Paul Warne comes out on every occasion and says how good he is, how much he adds off the bench, his energy, and how impressed he is. He gave him the start. Firstly, were you surprised to see Thompson start and just sum up his performance?
I thought he was outstanding for someone who's been dipping in and out of the team, played multiple positions during pre-season. He was mainly a left wing back during pre-season, and you didn't really see him getting a look in central midfield. So no, it was what we were missing from Tuesday. It was been what we've been missing for probably the last couple of games. That bit of energy, that bit of bite, and he's not that player that's going to go and put in a 2-footed lunge tackle or whatever that is in League One. But he's one of those that will just rat around and try and get the ball back, and has that energy to do so consistently. And then actually showed his quality with a couple of through balls to the wingers. So it was a case of, for me, an overall performance that we could see maybe potential future games for him in that position. It's just whether he gets a look in consistently, especially if Paul Warne's looking in the market for a central midfielder.
Yeah, and that's it, because obviously in previous situations, there's been players come in and kind of stunt academy players' growth in the team. And I feel like potentially there could be a situation where we sign there's a player that becomes available that Paul Warne deems more experienced or better in there than Liam Thompson. But I think for now, he's taking every opportunity that he's been given, out of position, in position. And like I said there, getting man of the match yesterday, he should be really pleased with his performance. Another person that will be pleased with their performance yesterday is Martin Waghorn, Vic. Waggy is back. I got so much criticism on Twitter when I was backing him. I really did. You want ex-players back. He can't score goals. 2-2 for Waggy. I mean, if there was a power cut in Derby, his smile could light Derby, I reckon, for a good hour or so. He just loves being back here, doesn't he?
I mean, it's interesting because when Waghorn did sign, I initially thought that we've gone back to... I had that same feeling, we've gone back to old players. Maybe he might not cut it, but maybe League One is his level at his age. He seems to be putting himself about. He's doing everything that we need him to do. He seems to be flourishing in that number 10 role, but can also drift out wide. He looks really comfortable, which is nice to see. Bearing in mind, it's a new squad of players. But yeah, Waghorn's just settled in, got 2-2. I think I'm going to have to start the Waghorn hype train now. Sorry, James. Let's go with the Waghorn hype train. But no, I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased to see that he's proven doubters wrong, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And if he continues to keep putting the ball in the back of the net, then, there's not going to be any criticism come his way. A goal scorer scores goals and everything else is kind of taken care of. Obviously mentioned in jest about changing the hype train, and James Collins found himself on the bench, Rob. Should he feel aggrieved to be out of that team?
I actually think, I'm not his biggest fan, but I think he's played well the first couple of games. I didn't go to the Blackpool game, but I saw the other two. I was there, and of all the players that could probably leave with some credibility, he was definitely up there. He put himself about. His quality was decent distribution. It's just that he's not clinical enough, probably, if you're really being critical. I think the first game, he had a cross came across to him, and that was the main chance we had to go in front against Wigan, and he's kind of side-footed it wide, but he's not getting loads of chances, so it just becomes more obvious when he is missing the odd one. But yeah, I suppose he could feel upset to be left out, but ultimately it was proved the right decision by the fact we got the result. I think Washington offers something a little bit different in terms of the pace. You could see that we were trying to be more direct, playing in behind. And ultimately, that's what led to the goal. It was a clever reverse pass. First, I thought it was kind of a missed shot, but it definitely was a reverse pass and a cracking finish by Waggy. So hopefully, if all three of them can keep firing and kind of buzzing off each other, then it gives us more options. It doesn't feel like he's going to, although he's saying he's going to bring someone in that position, that maybe that is what we're going to be stuck with for a little bit. So fingers crossed that they can all start to kind of contribute, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. A few comments on YouTube. Thanks for getting them in. Mark Drury says Warne in. I definitely agree with you, Mark. Ryan Jono thought we looked better on Saturday with 4 at the back, but still short of pace and bite in midfield. Still 4 or 5 players short, in my opinion. Again, I agree. We haven't really got anyone with pure pace at the moment. Callum, is that what we need? I mean, if we were to bring someone in the door tomorrow, is that player going to have raw pace? Are they going to be a forward player? What are they going to be?
Yeah, they've got to have. I don't want is an unproven first loan 19-year-old who's got maybe pace, but he hasn't got the capability of doing a promotion push for us. That it's very harsh to say that, because we've had a couple, and a couple have been okay over the last couple of years. You've got Lewis Dobbin, you've got Asula, but are they going to be that pacey player that we need, who can also get you 15 to 20 goals? That for me, those wouldn't. So I'm looking at probably that mid-age championship player who hasn't probably got a look in early this season, that we can just sneak in towards the end of the window, last day of the window, to just come get some first-team football, rather than a Premier League 19-year-old. So as long as they're capable of mounting a challenge to the guys who we've got up top, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I guess as well, Warne now needs to look at what formation he plays moving forward, whether it be 4 at the back, 3 at the back. So what players does he get to fit those formations? Vic, how do you see it moving forward in terms of formation? Do you think that we'll look at 4? Will we continue? Will we go back to a 3 when we've got the personnel? What do you think Warne's thinking at the moment?
I think for the time being, I think he'll stick with the back 4, because it seemed to work a lot better on Saturday as compared to the first 3 or 4 games. I think he'll try and revert back to that back 3, which I think he did evidently in the second half of the Fleetwood game, and you could see we were losing control of play. The game management was all wrong. So I think he needs to stick with the back 4, just because I think it gets the best out of the team for now. I think he will try and revert to a back 3, but I think if we're going to be successful this season, we need to have a flat back 4 and maybe have those 2 holding midfielders in front of him, or just at least 1 sweeper in front. Hopefully he doesn't change the system, because the fans seem to like the back 4, but you never know with Paul there.
Well, that's it. He does. He definitely does keep us guessing. But we obviously won on Saturday, so we've got something to build from. There's green shoots of positivity coming out of the club at the moment. So hopefully this week is a better week off the field than it was last week. Looking at Saturday now, we have to go away to Peterborough. Rob, it's a tough place to go. In my eyes, I don't think we ever do well there. I always feel like whenever I've been there, we've lost, or it's been raining, or it's just been a horrible, horrible day. Will we see the true mark of this team? Because as we probably would not admit to Fleetwood fans, and we wouldn't go and shout in their faces, but Fleetwood at home, it's not really a test. It shouldn't be a test for us. We should be winning that game. But Peterborough away is going to be a different story. Is that what you feel?
Yeah, I think exactly right. Having seen the Wigan and Oxford games, as you said earlier, the results they've had, you can kind of say, okay, fair enough, maybe they're going to be up there. Fleetwood, with the greatest respect, we've beat them, kind of hanging on a little bit at the end. They had a few chances, we've got through the result, we've got 3 points, we needed the momentum, fair enough, we're there. I think this game on Saturday is massive for us, just to keep the momentum going for one, but to kind of see where we're at, see if we can compete with somebody who's probably at least where we should be aiming to be at the end of the season. They were close to us last year, a bit of a rival for the playoffs. And I agree, we don't ever seem to do well when I was there. The last time I was there was that Jack Stretton goal, and then they scored 2 in injury time. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a big game for us, and fingers crossed that there's enough kind of momentum and belief to go into the game and try and get something. I think, an early goal would be nice, and just try and and get through it, take the 3 points, or at least a point, to be fair. But 3 would be much better, obviously, in the position we're in.
Yeah. Another player, Callum, I wanted to talk to you about, and I think Vic going in and out. We didn't talk about him when we were talking about the other players. So stay where you are, Vic. Don't leave us. Don't leave us again. Is Jake Rooney. I suppose in my eyes, it's similar to what I said about Liam Thompson. It almost feels that whenever he's in the team, he gets compliments, he plays well. He's always going to give you like a 7 out of 10 performance. He finds himself in, it must be frustrating for him because I think he plays well and then last season he saw himself just drop out of the team completely, not even be on the bench on occasions. He's waited for his chance this season. In my eyes, he's took it. Looking at the highlights again yesterday, you can see how confident he is. He's technical. And with players like Bradley and Nelson, who I don't think are as comfortable on the ball as someone like Rooney, I feel like we'd really benefit from having someone back there that can actually play football. I know that sounds really harsh, but just be able to actually pass and be able to kind of break the lines and play probably how Paul Warne wants us to play. What's been your thoughts on Rooney, I suppose, looking at last season and then yesterday?
Well, last season, I thought he was one of them players who say he was consistent when he came in. He did everything he was asked to do. In some cases, he was in positions that probably weren't natural to him, and he did a really good job. In terms of yesterday, I thought, as you say, he took his chance. And I think with the squad depth that we have in that position currently, I see him starting there at least for the next 4 or 5 games until we get someone in. There was one instance where a crossfield ball came across and he kind of took it on his chest, kind of over his shoulder, and then took it down the line, took it away from the player and played in Mendes Lang. And you're kind of going, where was that come from? Kind of from a right back. And it's like, for his age, he seems to take in League One like a duck to water. I said MK Dons was a big one for me last season where he was absolutely outstanding. It's just, I think his age, bless him, Paul Warne just likes those players who, or maybe doesn't like too many young players within his squad. He likes maybe 1 or 2 dotted around. Obviously, we had Thompson, you still got Cashin, who's probably still of that ilk. You've then had Rooney on top of that. So he probably doesn't want too many of those academy players dotted around. Maybe as I say, that's probably the only thing that's probably hampered him, bless him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you mentioned Cashin there. We've obviously seen speculation, Vic, last week, this week, with regards to Brighton seemingly pushing quite hard to get him down down the south coast. Whether he goes there and actually plays for them is another story, because there has been talk about coming back on loan. 3 million's the price that potentially has been recently rejected. I suppose that's getting close to Derby's valuation of the player. Do you feel? I mean, that's a good amount of money for someone with just a year left on his contract.
I mean, I'll be honest. I think 3 million's probably bang on for him, in terms of, we got to take into consideration we are a League One team. He's a League One player currently. If we can reinvest that 3 million, if that's the guarantee we get from the higher uppers in the club, then it makes sense, because we probably need to reinvest that in probably 4 or 5 players. So I would have took the 3 million, and if we got the loan back, that's a bonus. But 3 million at our level, plus the fee that we would have got for Jason Knight, put that together. If we were allowed to spend that, we could really do some serious damage in this league. But I reckon we're getting close to them agreeing a fee. We know Brighton have got a terrific scouting network, and Cashin's fallen under that now. So hopefully they can pay up now that they've got that 115 million for Caicedo. So I'm sure they can save another million or so that we need. We don't want to lose him, but you know what? If it helps the squad in the long term in terms of our rebuilding project, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. What we need to do is just call Liverpool and Chelsea and say, look, Aaron Cashin, in 5 years, you're going to be interested. So give us an extra 5 million and he can come and play for you. Something along those lines. Rob, I'm going to ask you a would you rather question. Would you rather sell Max Bird or Aaron Cashin if you had to sell one?
Oh, geez.
It's not even a tough question for you at the moment. It's definitely on Cashin. I'm not sure he's been that good this season. That might be controversial, but the games I've seen, he's certainly nowhere near the levels he was at last season, particularly his distribution. I think his tackling still there. He's obviously that's the main part of his game. A couple of times he's saved us big time with his last ditch tackles, where you're nervous, you bite your nails, think there's a penalty coming, and he just times it perfectly. But particularly Wigan, in terms of his distribution, it was just appalling, to be honest. I can remember watching it thinking he's given the ball away 10 or 15 times in this game. It's so unlike him. He's then gone into the Oxford game and he's kind of the same. Now, whether it's just his head's not in it, maybe the transfers, I think Warne alluded to that in one of his post matches, that maybe his head was elsewhere. I can't remember how he worded it, but that could be playing a part. But I suppose Max Bird's been so good this season for me. I think he's kind of stepped into that forward advanced midfield role and given us something else in terms of his dribbling into the box, pushing us forward, the Burton game particularly. So, yeah, I think for me at the moment, I can be quite clinical with that answer. I'd say I'd rather see Max Bird.
Callum, do you agree?
I think that's quite a reasonable statement, to be fair. I mean, as I say, Bird for me at the start of the season would have been the one for me to go over Cashin. I think Cashin was pivotal over the last couple of seasons in terms of the stability at the back and that mainstay. But I have to agree with Rob, is he has looked off it. Maybe Warne was alluding to him, right, as opposed to Bird in terms of his head being turned and stuff. Because, as I say, he's always been that Mr. Reliable in terms of your defensive duties and tackling, but there comes a time with distribution where he has got found out a couple of times. He hasn't been doing those crossfield balls that and cutting through passes from centre half that he was last season. He's been passing it to the opposition quite frequently. So no, I probably agree with Rob, to be fair. I'd take the 3 or 4 mil for Cashin and keep Bird if I could.
And lastly, Vic, are you going to agree?
Oh,
I don't know. You know, at this current moment in time, if an offer coming for Max Bird, bearing in mind he ain't coming back till Christmas, sell him. Simple as that. But if they're both fit, then I would sell Cashin, just because I agree with Rob and Callum and everyone else that he hasn't looked up to the standards that he set last season. Again, maybe heads have turned. We're not sure. It could be the system as well. The problem that we've got our centre backs is they are fairly slow, and that's probably one of Cashin's weakest points, is the fact that he's not very quick. So again, maybe we can reinvest that. But yeah, I mean, if at this current predicament, I'd sell Bird just because he's not coming back till Christmas, and we can get a bit of money in. But if I had to choose out of the two, out of them both being fit, then yeah, it'd have to be Cashin.
Thinking outside the box, Vic, as ever with that one. So yeah,
Jamie,
I love
you're not
that.
getting away with it, mate. What are you doing? You're not getting away with it.
I'd sell Cashin. Yeah, free. I think for 3 million, I think 3 million goes back into the club. If we can invest some of that, that would be perfect. But yeah, I mean, let's see. It might be the case that we both have. Do they both stay? They both might go. We don't know. I think they're the only two realistically that I see leaving this squad at the moment. I don't see anybody else leaving. So we're definitely looking at the entrance and not the exit to see who kind of comes through the door. And by all accounts, we should have something quite shortly. Warne's obviously said in interviews that something's close with regards to a midfielder, which sounds crazy. If you told me that would be the person coming through the door like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that would seem crazy. But yeah, let's see what happens. And I think we just need to, like I said before, three points off the top. We've got a couple of games to see where we're at. If we can get a win and a draw, I think everything starts to look a bit more rosy. With Saturday in mind, Callum, going to come to you first for a score prediction. Peterborough away, what are you going for? It
hasn't been a good stomping ground for us over the last couple of years. I'll go 1-1, and I'll go. Oh God, Mendes Lang to score. Well, I've got his shirt on.
Yeah, you had to with the shirt on. You had to with the shirt on.
It'd be betrayal if I didn't.
Vic, What are you thinking?
We always struggle when we go to Peterborough's ground. I'd take a 1-1, but truth be told, I think we might end up losing this game because I think Peterborough are going to want to bounce back from their result on the weekend. So let me go with my heart. I'll say 1-1, and I'm going to go for a Washington equaliser in the last minute.
Love it. He was there, wasn't he? Washington was at Peterborough, so he'll know the ground well. We scored some goals there, so yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Rob, is it going to be a hat trick of 1-1s?
No, it's a heart and head question, isn't it? Really, I mean, I'll stick it out there that we're going to get a win. Let's say that. Yeah, I can see James Collins maybe off the bench, maybe some scrappy header in the 85th, coming away with a 1-0 horrible win. Let's go for that. 1-0
Yeah.
James Collins. Yeah.
I can see that
no
as
chance
well.
like, but yeah, I'll go for it.
I can see that as well. Yeah, James Collins scoring and then going over to the advertising board and smashing it with his foot and then having to come off injured, something like that. That would be typical Derby. Derby. I'm going to agree with Callum and Vic. I'm going to go 1-1, and I think we're going to see finally maybe a set piece goal and a centre back getting a goal. So I'll go for a Cashin header. Kisses the badge, says he's going nowhere like he did last season or the season before. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. And like I say, I think we'll know where we are after the next two. They're probably the two of the hardest places to go in the league. So let's see what happens and enjoy the ride, I guess.
Well, I think when you look at the league, anyone can beat anyone. I mean, Oxford beat Barnsley. Wigan turned over Bolton, and Bolton are like an absolute. They were steamrolling the first couple of games, and Barnsley won 7-0 and have gone and lost their last two or haven't won since or something like that. So it's all to play for. Let's not try to get too bogged down and not too high either, because it could be very, very heavy on the heart this year, and we could be doing trips to the ER if by the end of the season.
I think what we got to remember, like with this league, we were going on about how weak this league is, but to me, it seems really open. Like you can't tell who's going to beat who this season. You don't know where anybody's going to. Who would have thought Cambridge would be top of the league after 3 games? You know what I mean? Like
that's true.
This is what I mean. So
Jamie,
I think
Jamie did,
except for Jamie, repping the Cambridge Rams. But I think it's an open league. It's turning into the championship in a way because it's been unpredictable. Teams seem to be on an even playing field in this league as well. So let's enjoy the ride while we can. Hopefully we do finish top 2, top 6, whatever. But if we finish in anywhere else, I ain't really fussed. But it's all about the rebuild. It's all about the rebuild.
It is all about the rebuild. Rob, last question to you as our special guest. Thanks for joining us tonight. I feel like I've put some proper hard questions to you, and I'm going to put another one to you right now. If we lose the next 2, would it be time for Warne to go?
You're asking the wrong person. Oh, God. No, I'm not anti-Warne. Let's say that. It's particularly the guy who's just texted in with the YouTube. But my feeling is I was so bought into Rossini. I think he stayed with us through the thick and thin, and I kind of really saw an identity in what he was trying to do, and I could buy into it, even though there was a couple of strange performances last year. I went to Lincoln game. You're thinking that's a bit naive to be trying to play like that there and all that. But I could see how we were trying to play football. And I think with Warne, he says a lot of things, but when I go to the games, I can't see that in the team, like this high press, this high intensity. I'm not saying we never press the ball because we could go through patches of doing it, but I don't really see that. He talks about loads of crosses into the box. You kind of do see that, but we're not set up in the right way to play it. So I get frustrated with the fact that I really like him. He's just such a likable guy and obviously a good man, no question about that. But in terms of the football, the style of football, I'm confused when I watch it. I don't really know what our style is, what we're trying to do. And you kind of muddle through games and you get a win like Saturday, you think, oh, great, we've won. But you can't really say why. It's just like you just turn up to another game. It's just another game. So, yeah, I think if we lost the last 2 or went on a run of losing games, I suppose the crowd would ultimately get dejected, and we are a team that's expected to get promotion. Personally, could we get any better than him? Probably not. Would it be the right decision? Probably not. But you're a football fan at the end of the day, and ultimately, at some point, there's got to be a line. I suppose if it's 2 games, if it's 3 games, if it's 4 games, if it looks like we're not going to get promoted, then I think there's probably a decision to be made. Ultimately, Klaus is a businessman. I'm sure as nice as he comes across, he can be quite ruthless and he will make a decision based on what he thinks is right at the time. But I know that's a bit of a sit on the fence answer I've given you there, but I want it to work for him so bad, but in my heart, I'm still not completely bought into him until I see what he's saying and I kind of see it on the pitch, particularly the fact he's brought his team in now and we're not really seeing that from the start of this season. It is a bit, he's starting to think, is he actually are we going to see these things that he said we're going to do? But, let's hope so. Let's be positive. So, no, let's say he gets another more than 2 games, just to answer your question.
Thank you. Yeah, I went to say the question and in my head, I had something different, but then I was thinking, what's the best way, the hardest way to answer this question? I don't agree with that at all, but I know that if we, I agree with him obviously going, but if we do lose the next 2, I think social media and I think the fan base will be, questioning what's going on, especially if we put the performances in, like we did.
His interviews were interesting after the games, after the Wigan and even the Burton game. To be honest, his interviews were really interesting because he wasn't the comedian. He looked dejected. He looked actually like he didn't know what was going wrong, like he didn't know what to answer. And that was real red flag stuff to me. The Blackpool one as well. So you start to think, is he going to be able to turn this around? It is a different pressure at Derby to Rotherham. Let's be honest, it is completely different pressure, different expectations. So you're probably right. 2 games would start to see a huge amounts of pressure put on him, and then ultimately we know what social media can do. So
the only thing I'd put against that, James, very, very quickly, is the opposition we're playing away from home are Peterborough and Bolton. They're not easy. So I would look at the opposition in terms of taking that into account, just for me.
For the next 2. Yeah. No,
yeah, just the next 2.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. It's been an absolute great time chatting to you all. Rob, thanks so much for joining us and stepping in. We've got some injury issues here at Rams Talk. So, yeah.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. We brought you in. You give that energy. So they'll be listening, watching, and being worried. But Callum as well, Vic, as usual, thanks so much for coming on. If you did enjoy this, please do rate us. It really helps us on whatever you're listening on. If you do want to get involved, you can watch us live on YouTube and add your comments. You can also find us on every audio platform, wherever you get your podcasts from. We will see you next Sunday to hopefully be discussing some more positive news after a win against Peterborough. Fingers crossed. But until then, take care and see you soon.